News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A former local leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been sentenced to 60 days in jail for sexting with a teenage girl in his congregation several years ago. Courtney Ted Andrew, a 39-year-old Trenton man, was told to report to the Cache County Jail by Saturday after telling a judge that he was sorry for what he did. Andrew was sentenced Monday in Logan's 1st District Court. He previously accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to 2 counts of enticing a minor by internet or text, amended to a third-degree felony. According to prosecutors, the crimes occurred between June 10th and July 14th, 2021. Andrew was then reportedly serving as a counselor in the ward's bishopric with a bishop and another counselor. The 3 men would oversee the operations of the congregation, including the records, finances, and caring for those in need. During the investigation, the victim told Cache County Sheriff's detectives how she originally began communicating with Andrew to receive counseling. Andrew would text the teen girl religious advice, but as the communications went on, the texts turned inappropriate and sexually graphic. The victim's mother reported the actions to the bishop, who reportedly removed Andrew from his position in the ward. Through the investigation, detectives reported that Andrew was attempting to groom the girl to have sex with him. The communications ended before the relationship became physical. Andrew was sentenced to serve 60 days in jail with work release, followed by 24 months probation. He was also ordered to be placed on the sex offender registry and have no contact with the victim. KBNU News Time is 4:05. KBNU weather for tonight: cloudy, chance of rain this evening, then a chance of rain and snow after midnight. Patchy fog through the night, low around 30. Patchy fog Wednesday morning, and then cloudy and mid-30s for the high. Snow and rain likely late Wednesday night into Thursday. Rain and snow in the forecast on Thursday with accumulations possible. High again in the upper 30s. We've been to 36. Right now it's 35 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Whole Tree Care. The guys at Whole Tree Care trim trees all winter. In fact, winter is the best time to trim because visibility is perfect with no leaves. Plus, your trees are dormant, making it easier on your trees. Call 435-760-6587.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town, on the corner of 5th East, 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KBNU News Time is 4:06. A 76-year-old man died after officials said he drifted off the road and crashed due to a possible medical incident. They responded to I-80 near mile marker 13 in Tooele County just after 11 a.m. on Saturday. A Dodge Ram pickup truck had been traveling east when officials said it drifted to the right into the cable barrier and came to rest. Troopers reported that the driver, a 76-year-old man, was unresponsive. CPR was performed until medical responders arrived. He was ultimately pronounced dead at the scene. Officials said they are investigating a possible medical incident as a factor in this crash. And a 48-year-old Utah man was arrested after police recovered over 41 firearms along with money and drugs from his residence. The Iron Garfield Beaver Narcotics Task Force took Brent Taylor of Cedar City into custody this past Friday. According to a probable cause statement and photos provided by officials, the recovered firearms included pistols, AR-style rifles, shotguns, AK-47-style rifles, and more. Several baggies were found inside Taylor's home, along with various pills. Investigators are still determining the nature of the pills. Investigators mentioned that Taylor had prior military service, and there was evidence suggesting he was a very large drug dealer. Taylor was booked into the Iron County Jail on multiple counts of distribution of a controlled substance and possession of a dangerous weapon by a restricted person. KVNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
For the last 27 years, we've been honored to serve our community as the highest rated home medical supplier in Utah. Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. Our commitment to exceptional customer service is at the heart of everything we do, and our team is always here to make sure you get the care and products you need. Whether it's oxygen solutions, CPAP supplies, or expert home safety advice, we do it all. As a Best in State winner for the last 14 years and highest rated on Google, Alpine Home Medical is not just a provider, we're a trusted partner in your healthcare journey. So swing by any of our 11 locations today and experience firsthand what makes Alpine Home Medical a 5-star experience. See us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Winter weather is hard on your vehicle. What's worse is when your vehicle breaks down and the only option is to drag it to the mechanic. This is Harrison with HH Mobile Repair. Listen, don't do that. It's not safe, and I'll come to you. HH Mobile Repair can handle all your repair needs at home, or if something happens at work, call me, and I'll diagnose it on the spot and repair it quickly, so you don't have to risk your safety. To schedule, search HH Mobile Repair or call 435-500-2430. That's 435-500-2430.
The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show, presented by Anderson Seed and Garden, is March 22nd and 23rd at the Eccles Eye Center. For 25 plus years, thousands of people have enjoyed this fun and helpful home show. Main Street access, great parking, and thousands of visitors make it perfect for your business. Reserve your space today. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show for details or call 752-1390. That's 752-1390.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
And welcome to KVNU's For the People. And no, I am not Jason Williams. This is Bill Walter. Jason is, of course, doing the Sundance thing, Sundance Film Festival. He will be back live tomorrow, however. But I'm jumping in here because we have a very special guest in studio this afternoon to tell us about an event that is coming up on Thursday. It is an open house that will happen at Sunshine Terrace Foundation, all to commemorate their 75th anniversary. Here to tell us about it, we have Stephanie Sorensen, who is president of the Sunshine Terrace Foundation. Stephanie, welcome to our studio to For the People. I couldn't present Jason for you today, but you'll have to settle for me. But we do have this big event coming up. So tell us about it.
Well, thank you, Bill. I really appreciate you having me in today. And you and Jason are a team, so having one is better than none, right?
I guess so. I think that's the case.
I believe that's fair. And so we are celebrating Sunshine Terrace Foundation 75th anniversary. And again, it is on Thursday, January 25th, this coming Thursday. And there'll be an open house at You'll be able to come in. There'll be light refreshments. By the way, the open house is from 4 until 6. A short tour for those interested, because we've been doing a lot of renovation to our facility. And there'll be a brief program at 5 p.m.
All right. So now, is this going to be in the main Sunshine Terrace facility right there on the to the south of 300 North, correct?
That is correct. It's the old main entrance. For those of you that are familiar with the facility, it's where our home health and hospice is located, but that's the old entrance to Sunshine Terrace Nursing Home. And so it is at 225 North, 200 West in Logan.
Yes, very, very good. And so it's you're going to have, so people can come anytime, those 2 hours, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. But I understand there's going to be a brief program at 5 p.m.
That is correct. Our CEO will be speaking. I will be also saying a few words and welcoming our guest, talking about how wonderful it is to celebrate our 75th anniversary. It's hard to believe, 75 years, and all the work, the hard work that's been put into this foundation throughout the years. The foundation started out having a skilled nursing facility for those in need. It is a community facility for Cache County residents. Many don't understand that, but it was actually formed because of a man by the name of Boyd Hatch, who came to visit a grandmother, and he would come every summer. He was a businessman from New York.
And I guess he grew up in Logan, is that correct?
He did. And so he would come in, he'd visit with his grandmother, and then he would go to a retreat up Logan Canyon. And in 1948, when he came back, he found that his grandmother her home had been turned into a subpar nursing home, and she was not being taken care of as he felt she should, as well as the other residents.
So the house that she had lived in was her house. She had sold to I guess a third party as a nursing facility, and she was one of those that was supposedly being taken care of, but
she was, and the others were more indigent individuals that couldn't afford services. And back then, there weren't any nursing homes in our area. And so at that point in time, Boyd decided, I need to do something for the community. And he formed the Sunshine Terrace Foundation at that point. Now, of course, the Sunshine Terrace Skilled Nursing Facility has been located at different sites along the way. But in 1968, they built a building that is still standing, and it was deemed to house and help all within our community that needed skilled nursing provided.
Right. So, a much needed facility that we have had here in the Cache Valley for 75 years now. And by the way, if you want to read that history, the story, just go to sunshineterrace.org. Hit, I think it says about or something, or our story, but fascinating story with pictures of that original house, Mr. Hatch's grandmother's house, the original house there, and how it all started. So 75 years strong, Sunshine Terrace Foundation. Please come on by if you can spare even a few minutes between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Now, what I find really informative is that not only was Sunshine Terrace Foundation formed and the nursing home began, then throughout the years, several businesses have spun off of that. We have a home health and hospice we have Sunshine Cares, and Sunshine Cares is for those individuals that might need someone to step in for respite care or to help go get groceries, do a little housekeeping, maybe some laundry. And we have Terrace Grove Assisted Living Center.
Right, just to the north.
And then we have physical therapy, The Works. And The Works is there for anyone within the community that may need some rehabilitation from an injury. Maybe it is you need to strengthen your muscles so that you're not a fall risk. And so
my wife has used that, as a matter of fact, because she had a bad disc in her back and was trying to rework through that. And so she took advantage of that for a couple of visits a year or two ago.
Myself, I'm a fan of The Works because one of the physical therapists, Mike, we'll use his name, Mike, actually helped get me back to where I could enjoy life again.
Well, good. Very, very useful thing to have in our community as part of the Sunshine Terrace Foundation. So again, the 75th anniversary celebration, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. there at Sunshine Terrace this Thursday. Please stop on by and enjoy some refreshments and this program, this brief program that will take place at 5 p.m. This coming Thursday. So thank you, Stephanie.
And thank you, Bill. And I want to thank the whole community for their support, volunteering their services, and their financial contributions. Without you, we wouldn't be in existence.
75 years strong, still going strong, a much-needed facility to help people in our local area, the Sunshine Terrace Foundation. We've had Stephanie Sorensen, the president of the foundation, with us this afternoon on KBNU's For the People, which will return with Jason right after this.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News, analysis of the New Hampshire Republican primary results and what they mean ahead of the South Carolina primary late next month. Also, how are you supposed to be a good networker if nobody wants to talk to you by phone or email? Hear tips from an expert and the growing number of ways you can save on today's pricey prescription drugs. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Recapping some of our interviews with candidates here today and tomorrow on the show. I'm actually off to the Park City Film Festival, so what you're hearing is not live, but hopefully still entertaining. If you missed any of these interviews, it's a good time to catch up because these campaigns are underway and wasting no time. The candidates running for primaries left and right, from the United States Senate race to the Attorney General's race to two different primaries that will take place for our congressional delegation. It is a pretty exciting time, and that's not even counting the state house races, which we'll get to later on in the hour. But we're going to jump into this one. This was a kind of a surprise for everyone that had been following the Tim Ballard and Sean Reyes story. And late last week, we heard the news via a video release from current Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes that he would not be seeking re-election in 2024. He will serve out his term until the end of 2024. He isn't resigning, but he will not seek re-election amid, just everything that's been in the headlines. Basically, we'll put it that way. So the next question is, what happens next? And we have a bit of a clue as to what might happen next, with one individual having thrown their hat in the ring to run as a candidate for Utah Attorney General in what will be the I think most closely watched races of 2024 here in Utah, and that person is former chair of the Utah Republican Party, and I dare say one of my favorite guests here on the show over the years, Derek Brown. And Derek, appreciate taking some time to join us here, especially on short notice. This announcement is very fresh. I was texting with some of your assistants there just right up until showtime today. We managed to make it work, so thank you.
Hey, well, it's good to be with you. Thanks for fitting me in. It's been kind of a crazy day, but when you announce a campaign, that's how it goes.
That's right. And this has been a race that, understandably, even though it won't really get underway until next spring, is already getting some attention with things that have been in the headlines, with rumors in legislative circles about changing the way attorney generals are elected versus one state senator saying let's appoint them instead. All of this a response to what has been a tumultuous time for the attorney general's office. And first off, if elected, you'd be stepping into that situation, right? You would be, I would assume, expected by legislative leaders and the governor's office and others to make a difference there, right?
Absolutely, and one of the roles is really to have some independence and to create accountability for other areas in our state government, including the governor, which is, you alluded, Jason, earlier to the idea of maybe having the attorney general be an appointed position. And it's not one that I really think is a good policy. I like the idea of accountability. And I think that, when the public at large has a chance to vote for an elected official, that's the best accountability measure. And so anyway, you just alluded to that because that was one of those things that has come up pretty regularly, and I feel pretty strongly about the fact that if I'm elected, I'm accountable to the people of Utah, and that's why the direct election by our citizens makes a lot of sense.
Sure. This is, and my hat's off to anyone who runs for this, but also, some personal lobbying on my part. There's some staff members there in the Attorney General's office. If you're elected, don't clean house. There's some great people there. But I bring that up. Hey, sorry, go ahead.
There are amazing. No, there are amazing people there, and most people don't actually know.
Sure.
What the Attorney General's office does. They hear some of the bigger sort of criminal issues that are prosecuted, but it is 500 plus people. I think 526 people currently, and these are amazing people, attorneys and staff members who support them and investigators, and they do great work. And they are the largest law firm in the state of Utah, and they're the law firm for the state of Utah, right? That's really what they do is they have, I'm an attorney and I have lots of clients and lots of companies that hire me, but the law firm for the state has one client. And so, yeah, you're right about the whole, cleaning house. I think there's a lot of amazing people there.
Sure. That is, and I'm biased, of course, towards current chief of staff there. He's made it so easy to book guests here on the show. But that's why I bring that up is that I've found the Attorney General's office to be extremely accessible. But some of these unfortunate headlines and having it happen so many times in a row, there's obviously a cloud there. So if elected, Derek, what would you do to restore confidence for those who have lost it in the office itself? Would it be an easy thing to do?
Well, I think what I'd have to do is look from sort of top to bottom. What is it that we can do to create transparency, accountability, and run the office in a way where it is a place that people enjoy working and where they have the resources that they need? Because that's the other thing that I think that the chief of staff you referenced understands is that the office doesn't just sort of magically fund itself.
Sure.
The Attorney General needs to spend time working with and lobbying with the legislature to get the funding that they need to support the investigations and the prosecutions and, all of the stuff that office does. And so, I will undertake a thorough review from top to bottom and see what it is that we can do. And if there are changes that need to be made, do that. There's an audit that's going on, and you've obviously, seen that and know that the legislature is sort of digging into the nuts and bolts of how is that office governed and organized and what are the policies and procedures and the culture. And I expect that audit will yield a lot of pretty helpful information that the next person that's in that office can use in terms of making decisions, making changes, and that sort of thing.
And Derek, you obviously have or you wouldn't run. You obviously have the qualifications and the resume for this job to be an attorney general of a state. But you also have some experience, and I mean no disrespect to any of your predecessors as chair of the Republican Party there for a time, but you have some experience there in that role in doing a bit of cleanup and restoration of faith, right?
Well, and that honestly, that was one of the reasons I ran to be the Republican Party chair.
I remember you telling us that.
Yeah, there was a rough time, and it had gone through a rough couple of years. And my job was to, as I saw it, to get in, to serve, to clean things from a party standpoint, and to really change everything from morale to perception. And then after serving and stepping up, to just step out.
Sure.
And I think that's the way public service ought to be. I mean, and I've done this when I was in the House of Representatives. I did this for the party. I did this when I was Senator Lee's deputy chief of staff. As I got in, I stepped up, I served, and then I stepped out. And I think that's the way our system should work, is that none of these things should be careers. I mean, hold me to that, as well. I mean, this is not something that should be a career. It should be an opportunity to serve the people of Utah for a period of time, and then to move back to the private sector and have someone else step up.
Sure. This is, and you said in an interview with the Salt Lake Tribune that was published just today that you feel this is too critical of a time for Utah in general, but specifically the Attorney General's office, to not have a strong voice, considering what's going on at the federal level and the role Attorney Generals from the states play in some of those debates. You said now is not a time to have things be kind of unfocused and hectic, right?
Well, and the way I look at it, we have this check and balance. I mean, everybody knows it at the federal level, but the check and balance between the federal government and the state of Utah is that 10th Amendment tension where the state can push back. And the person that gets to push back on behalf of the state is the Attorney General. And so, I think it takes concerted effort and focus to identify those areas where the federal government is overstepping its bounds, and then to focus on those efforts. And so that's one of the things that, particularly when we have someone in the White House like we have now, the federal government is much more prone to deliberately stepping on our toes, so to speak, than, someone else from a different party. And so that's one of the reasons I think this is a critical time to have someone who is laser focused on that issue.
And your message is already getting some pretty big name endorsers. In fact, this one surprised me, Derek, because I know he is not prone to endorsements. In fact, he's kind of doing his thing with his institute there at Utah Valley University and trying to stay out of the spotlight. But you come out swinging with an endorsement from former Governor Gary Herbert.
And it's one that I certainly appreciate. And I've been asked, what does it mean? And the reality is when you run a campaign, your main goal is to build a coalition of people who support you and think that you're the person that can solve the issue that needs to be solved. And I think, and I appreciate, the former governor's endorsement, because he's basically saying, look, there's a lot of things going on, and Derek is the person, that can sort of address them. And he certainly knows, having been the governor for so many years and having worked with multiple attorneys general in that office. And so anyway, it's a nice it's a nice endorsement to have, and I'm having other people that are starting to rally as well based on that. So I certainly appreciate that.
That is, Derek, I know we promised to keep on a tight timeline here because your phone is ringing off the hook with this announcement today. But last quick question for you. For people who want to connect and learn more, I know this is fresh, the announcement just coming today, but making it official, you're in this race for Utah Attorney General. But if people want to learn more about Derek Brown, connect with the Derek Brown campaign, where can they go, or soon where can they go?
Well, it's probably the best information right now is just my site. It's Derek for Utah. So Derek is spelled DEREK and FOR. So DerekForUtah.com, and that has the information, sort of who I am, my background, the things that matter, and that kind of thing. And so anyway, hopefully, we'll be able to talk more as things move forward, and I look forward to an exciting campaign and, winning a year from now.
Again, that was former Republican Party Chair Derek Brown, who made the announcement, surprising everyone, that he was going to run for Attorney General. As Sean Reyes has said, he will not seek re-election this year. That leaves it basically an open seat when Reyes' term is up at the end of this year. And Derek Brown was first to throw his hat in the ring. Now, he has attracted some challengers, including a Libertarian perpetual candidate, but all-around kind of fun guy to interview, Andrew McCullough. We'll have him here on the show in the coming days as well. Revisiting some of our interviews with candidates over the last several weeks as we head into what is going to be a pretty raucous legislative session. And then, well, anything goes at that point. So we give everybody a chance to get to know the candidates, and please do so. There are going to be a lot of choices on your ballots, both in the primary between now and June and also the general election. So elections are an important thing. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this. Look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:33. The news brought to you by U&I Furniture. A 19-year-old Idaho man is in the Cache County Jail after trying to flee from police and causing a crash that sent 4 people to the hospital, according to law enforcement. Braxton Jacob Banta was booked Monday after officers found him hiding in a barn. According to a statement of probable cause, a North Park police officer witnessed a Ford Mustang driving south on US 91 in North Logan at around 4:20 a.m. The car was traveling over 100 miles per hour. When the officer attempted a traffic stop, the vehicle accelerated even faster and began traveling in the median lane, allegedly trying to evade police. Law enforcement terminated the pursuit a short time later because of road conditions. Several minutes later, police were alerted to a vehicle crash that had just occurred near 2400 West, 3400 North. The same Ford Mustang had driven into a field before coming to a stop. Police reported 5 occupants in the car at the time of the crash. The driver, however, later identified as Banta, had fled the scene. The 4 passengers were transported to the hospital for medical treatment. One was later flown to a higher care facility due to critical injuries, according to law enforcement. Police set up a perimeter around the crash. They later found Banta hiding inside a barn several blocks to the south. At the time of contact, he reportedly smelled of alcohol and exhibited signs of impairment. According to jail records, Banta was booked on 10 offenses, ranging from failing to stop at the command of police to driving under the influence. He remains in jail, being held without bail, pending arraignment on formal charges in Logan's 1st District Court. A bill that introduced to the Utah legislature would incentivize school teachers with a $500 reimbursement to install a biometric gun safe. Sponsored by Representative Tim Jimenez, a Republican from Tooele, HB 119 states it would create the Educator Protector Program to incentivize school teachers to responsibly secure or carry a firearm on school grounds by providing reimbursements and liability protection. The program would require an annual classroom response training given by a county sheriff, the Department of Public Safety, or a local law enforcement agency at the school where the teacher is employed. To participate in the program, a teacher must complete an annual classroom response training, an annual firearms training, and have a valid concealed carry permit issued under Title 53, Chapter 5, Part 7 of the Concealed Firearm Act 6 months before joining the program. KBNU News Time is 4:36.
UNI Furniture just took advantage of a last-minute opportunity. A name-brand furniture manufacturer called and discounted all of their showroom furniture from the furniture market. UNI Furniture sent a truck to pick it up, and it's all just arrived. Bookcases and TV consoles, some featuring built-in fireplaces, occasional tables, bedroom and dining room furniture, all in stock and discounted right now at UNI Furniture. So come shopping and take a look. There are one-time deals on name-brand furniture at a place where there's always a better buy at UNI Furniture in downtown Logan.
ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. The voting ends soon in the New Hampshire primary. Former President Trump was asked about challenger Nikki Haley at a polling place in Londonderry.
I don't care if she stays in. Let her do whatever she wants. It doesn't matter. I can just say that there's never been a movement like this. Make America great again.
She disagrees.
You need someone at the top of their game that can put in 8 years, that can go and get things back on track. That's what this is about.
The former South Carolina governor and former U.S. ambassador at a polling station in Hampton. President Biden and Vice President Harris rallied in Virginia for abortion rights. 2 U.S. officials say U.S. airstrikes hit 3 targets of Iran-backed militias in Iraq today. It was in response to Sunday's ballistic missile attack that left 4 U.S. personnel with traumatic brain injuries. The CEO of Alaska Airlines says the company will audit Boeing's quality control and processes after the door plug on one of the carrier's 737 MAX 9s blew out in mid-flight. This is ABC News.
KVNU weather tonight, cloudy, chance of rain this evening, then a chance of rain and snow after midnight. Patchy fog through the night, low around 30. Patchy fog in the morning, otherwise mostly cloudy, mid-30s on Wednesday. It's been to 36, it's 35 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by your Cache Valley Chevron stations. Download the Chevron app and join Chevron Rewards. Then you can save $1 per gallon on your next 3 visits. Visit any Cache Valley Chevron station for details. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Ted Karen with Edward Jones Investments in Smithfield, bringing you the daily financial market report for Tuesday, January 23rd. Stocks closed mostly higher, with corporate earnings today's primary headline. Consumer staples and communication services were the best-performing sectors of the S&P 500, boosted by strong quarterly earnings results from Procter & Gamble and Verizon. In bonds, the yield curve steepened today, with the 10-year Treasury yield rising to 4.14%, while the 2-year yield ticked lower to 4.38%. Overseas, Asian markets were higher, following the Bank of Japan's interest rate decision, which left the policy rate unchanged. Looking ahead, markets will have several key economic readings this week, including fourth quarter GDP on Thursday. Expectations are for real GDP to grow at a 1.5% quarter-over-quarter annualized rate, a big step down from the 4.9% growth rate in the third quarter. After rising by over 50% in 2023, the information technology and communication services are the top 2 performing sectors of the S&P 500 thus far in 2024. Much of the move higher in these sectors has been driven by enthusiasm around the growth potential of artificial intelligence. The enthusiasm around these companies has made its way into expectations for corporate growth as well, with both IT and communication services expected to grow earnings by over 15% this year. The healthcare sector, which was roughly flat last year, has seen strong performance to start the year as well, rising by nearly 3%. Interest rate-sensitive sectors, such as utilities and real estate, along with cyclical sectors such as energy and materials, have been among the laggards thus far this year. Additionally, after rallying in the final months of 2023, small-cap stocks and investment-grade bonds have pulled back to start the year. Looking ahead, our view is that market leadership could broaden in 2024, with areas of the market such as small and mid-cap stocks performing well alongside those large-cap tech companies. This has been today's financial market report brought to you by Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice.
If you were injured in an accident, you need someone in your corner, someone to help guide you through the mess of medical bills and all the confusion. The answer is talk to the Advocates. Now with offices in Logan at 95 West, 100 South. The Advocates can explain your options and give you an upfront evaluation of your situation. And the good news, you'll never spend a dime of out-of-pocket expenses. Call the Advocates, 801-350-5550.
That's 801-350-5550.
Or chat online at utahadvocates.com.
Help me.
me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Recapping some of our time with candidates. We have candidates everywhere, from multiple candidates in the United States Senate race to the governor's race to two different races for Congress to all of our state house races, in which here in Cache Valley we may actually see a primary play out as well in one race at least. And with me off at the film festival for the next couple of days, we thought it would be a good time to revisit some of these interviews for those who hadn't had a chance to tune in. And moving right along here, you heard before the news Derek Brown, who threw his hat in the ring in the race to replace Sean Reyes, who surprised everyone by announcing his resignation at the end of his term this year, saying he would not run for re-election amid the Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad scandal. Reyes didn't really offer a lot of reasons as to why he made the decision, but said he would serve out his term. He wasn't going to resign, as some have called for, but he was not going to run for re-election. This came amid the state legislature looking into his office via an audit. Also, the legislature mulling the idea of making the Attorney General an appointed position as opposed to elected to get the money out of it, the campaign money, which they believe, I guess, where some of the problems may have arisen with Reyes and his predecessors as well. Either way, Reyes said he's not going to do it. You heard from Derek Brown, who has thrown his hat in the ring, former chair of the Republican Party, has some statewide recognition with Republican voters. It should go well for Derek, I would assume, but he does have challengers, and we'll be hearing from them on future shows. In the governor's race, a long time ago, Governor Spencer Cox announced he intended to seek re-election. And soon after that, State Representative Phil Lyman, a far-right Republican from the San Juan County area, threw his hat in the ring. He visited with us late last year. And then, a surprise to everyone, just last week, an announcement from another former chair of the Utah Republican Party, Carson Jorgensen, former chair of the party, said he was going to run for governor. He released a video, which I've linked to on our Facebook page if you'd like to see it. It was kind of refreshing because it was very different from some of the nastier politics we've gotten used to these days. And, well, here's what Carson had to say about why he made this decision. Time we spoke to this man, he was serving as chair of the Utah Republican Party. He decided to step down from that role, take a break, and he's back, taking on an even larger statewide role, or at least more challenging statewide role, in a run for governor. Former Utah Republican Party Chairman Carson Jorgensen, our guest. And Carson, you made it official. You threw your name in the ring last night with the release of a campaign launch video. For listeners, I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And Carson, thank you for taking the time to join us today on short notice, no less.
No, thank you guys for having me on.
Well, we appreciate that. And I have to say, and I mean no disrespect to anyone else in this race by saying this, but I have to say this was probably one of the more welcome campaign launch videos that I have seen, because it wasn't nasty, it wasn't mean, it wasn't full of hot button slogans or anything like that. I mean, this was a campaign launch video in which you literally just talked about you, your life, and why you're running. And maybe it's a sad statement on politics today, but it seemed original.
That's what I tell everybody. I said, people are like, oh, it seems genuine. I'm like, well, that's about the only gear that I have. And so if it seems genuine, it's because it is, because I don't know anything different. But I think people are getting tired of the cutthroatedness in politics. And don't get me wrong, you have to be ready for it because it's going to come regardless.
Sure.
And I made the point to some people today, like, this is not a war of people. This is a war of ideas. And that's what politics should be. Leave the nastiness out, but you can still don't conflate somebody being angry and somebody yelling to somebody actually standing for strong principles, and that's where people too much get out in the weeds.
Sure. And this, I say this all the time. A lot of people don't agree with me, but it's usually because they have a preference in a race or favorable to an incumbent. I am a huge fan of primary challenges. I think it keeps everyone healthy. It keeps politics and parties healthy. But also it gives voters a choice. And you say in your video that that's what you want to do here. You want to bring something different to the governor's office.
Sure. No, and that's the whole idea. There's just a lot of things that I feel like maybe it's not an overarching issue, but there are small issues within a lot of the office. I touch on the budget, I touch on education, I touch on water issues, and Utah becoming self-sustaining in our own energy programs and things like that, which are all within our realm, and we're not doing anything about those. I see problems with the DNR and the DWR, and there are just little things here and there that can always make Utah a better place.
Sure. That's again what these re-election cycles are supposed to be a debate about. So welcoming the challenge, definitely. And I think this, for listeners, this is the race to watch, if you ask me. I know a lot of eyes are going to be on that United States Senate race because it's going to get national attention, but this is a big race statewide here in our state that will have a lot of impact on the direction of the state. And Carson, there is an incumbent in this race, and I remember way back when that person was running as a candidate, I asked the same question of him. I'm going to ask it of you now, but will you promise to not be afraid of that veto pen? I feel like our legislature sometimes needs to be taken down a peg or two.
You're exactly right, and the veto pen is there for a reason. And somebody wise once told me, that the governor's job is to lobby for the 99%. And if there's something in that bunch, lobbyists are there for the 1%. They're the ones who influence the legislature and make those deals. Yes, they represent their own districts, but we have to understand lobbyists do have a lot of power. But it's the governor's job to keep those in check. It's not the governor's job to be lobbied. It's not to take lobbyist money to make projects happen. It is the governor's job to be that balance between the legislature and the people.
Sure. Carson Jorgensen, again, our guest. He is a former chair of the Utah Republican Party, and he threw his hat in the ring for the governor's office, entering the governor's race officially last night with the release of a campaign launch video. You can see, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. You can also contact him and the campaign itself, get involved, learn more about his upcoming events and things like that at carsonjorgensen.com. And that's Jorgensen spelled with an E-N, Jorgensen. CarsonJorgensen.com. I've linked to that on our Facebook page as well. And Carson, you come at this. This is what intrigued me when I saw you jumped in the race via, I think it was a Fox 13 journalist's tweet last night. You come at this from a perspective of even though you'll be referred to in a lot of the news coverage as the challenger to the incumbent,
right?
You're coming at this from a perspective having already basically served in a statewide office overseeing the Utah Republican Party. You've been to every part of the state. You've seen the disparate issues from difference between Cache County and Garfield County. Simple question, but probably with not a simple answer, but can we do it all? It seems like there are so many challenges facing the state right now.
We can do it all, but the answer is not what people are going to think it is. The answer is not one overarching government. The answer doesn't come from the Utah State Capitol. The answer comes from local governments, empowering those local governments to take care of the issues, but not only that, but cutting the red tape and the regulations to the private sector to let them manage the issues. And that's how we're going to get to it all. And the power doesn't come from within the Utah State Capitol. The power is meant to be with the people and the government's closest to those people. And I believe that's how you do it, by giving these counties, these cities, and municipalities what they need, as well as cutting as much red tape for private business as we can.
This is, for you, I assume no small decision. You've got a family of 5 young daughters, and I assume, your wife had a lot to say about this decision as well. With that in mind, one of the biggest pressing issues that's probably going to dominate the gubernatorial campaign and most of the legislative races everyone's looking at this housing situation, looking at housing prices, things like that, and saying, I want my kids to be able to stay near me if they choose to, or go away to college and come back if they choose to. That's a challenge in some parts of the state, right? And this is something I know you've talked about before as when you were serving as chair.
Yeah, no, and it's absolutely the case. And again, I go back to it, and what is the proper role of government? And I agree, like everybody wants their kids to be able to afford a house close to them, but I don't think the government throwing money at it and subsidizing housing to hold up the industry is going to. The market's going to correct itself, and albeit it might be painful for a little bit, nobody wants to hear that, but it's the honest question, or the honest answer to a question that everybody's asking, is that we may have to let it correct itself, because the longer we throw government money at it, the longer we subsidize housing and push government money, albeit taxpayer dollars. Everybody is fitting the bill for this to hold up inflation. And at some point, the market has to correct itself, and the private sector needs to handle that issue, because, again, every time that the government gets involved, we tend to make it not a good thing.
You feel like things have gotten out of balance a little bit there then?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said as much about the budget. We have to be careful on what we're spending. You look at the budget increase from 2014 to 2024, we're looking at a $29.5 billion budget next year. For in 2014, it was $14 billion. So we've more than doubled our budget, but yet our population's only increased 12%. So we have to look at what we're funding and what our money's going to. I don't think it should be a political accomplishment for somebody to come out and say, "Oh, I've allotted this much money. I've spent this much taxpayer money on this program, and we spent $500 million on this." I don't want to see how much you've spent. I want to see what we've gotten for our money, and I think a lot of Utahns want to see the same thing.
One thing I thought was really unique about your time as party chair, Carson, is you actually called it. At a certain point, you said, "I came here I was elected as chair with a promise to achieve some certain things. I've achieved those things," and then you basically said it's time for me to get out of the way and someone else to bring their vision in and run with that. How does that same mentality of not sitting there forever apply to if you're successful in this race and you're there in the governor's office? Is there a set of things that at a certain point you would say, "Hey, got them all done in 4 years, maybe I won't run for a second term"? Do you have a list of absolute to-dos that you'd come in with?
I wouldn't say there's an absolute to-do list, but I will say this. The government service was never meant to be a lifetime thing. It was never meant to be a career for everybody for their life, and it has turned into that for far too many. It's one of those things in the world I come from, you judge by what work you get done, and when the work's done, you're done. And that's how it should be in politics, too. Do as much as you can, where you can, lift where you're at, and when you've taken it as far as you can, you need to turn it over to somebody else. Like you say, that's what I did with the party, and I feel that I did exactly what I needed to with the party to set them on the proper trajectory, but my skill set had come to an end with what the party needed, and so it was time for somebody else. Government's no different.
And Carson, I would be absolutely irresponsible in my job if I didn't bring this up at least. But come on, 4,500 head of sheep. How do you? That is a lot. But this does speak to your experience. You're coming at this from growing up in a rural lifestyle, understanding some parts of the state that traditionally, and I'm sure you heard this as chair as well, but traditionally have kind of felt a bit ignored by everything that goes on Capitol Hill, from the governor's office to the legislature. And you work growing up and working as a sheep farmer and in the area that you did. What challenges are facing the more rural parts of the state, and are we hearing about them?
Yeah, no, and we're not, and that's why I think you're seeing 3 candidates for the gubernatorial race that are not from the Wasatch Front. They're from rural, and because rural feels like they're getting left behind right now, but also the values that come from rural Utah are the ones that Utah was really founded on, and so those classic conservative principles that we learn in rural Utah that still exist there are what have gotten us to this point, and they're what are going to take us to the future. And absolutely, when you talk about things like that, public lands, water, those are huge things that are going to face Utahns in the next 10 years. And my entire life has revolved around water, public lands, the usage of those, dealing with the BLM and Forest Service and dealing with the federal government and the hoops we have to jump through on our public lands. Utah is square in the crosshairs of the federal government and all of these green groups who seek to shut down our public lands, not just for agriculture, but for mineral extraction. You see the new natural asset companies coming out and trying to sell our natural resources on the stock exchange. Like, Utah is in the crosshairs of all of it. Look at Biden's 30 by 30 initiative. This applies to 67% of the state, and this is a fight that the governor's office is going to have to take up, and we need somebody in there with a wherewithal to take that fight to D.C. and say, you know what, it's time for us to manage our own land.
That was, again, Carson Jorgensen, former chair of the Utah Republican Party, statewide party, and now candidate for governor here in Utah. He will challenge incumbent Governor Spencer Cox alongside State Representative Phil Lyman. And Carson said, as you just heard there, that just watching the race play out so far, watching Utah's budget double despite population growth not doubling itself yet, projected to, but not yet. He said he wondered what direction we were headed, if we're headed in the right direction. So this primary will play out. It will be interesting, and I would guess that right now the fight is more between Jorgensen and Lyman on who gets the nod at the convention. And Governor Cox is collecting signatures, will also campaign at convention, although it didn't go well for him or Herbert before him last time with the further right delegates. I expect that we'll see this decision actually made in a balloted primary in June, and we'll see which one of Jorgensen and Lyman ends up joining Cox on that ballot. My guess is probably Jorgensen, but I don't know anymore. Revisiting some of our time with candidates here on the show today, and we'll get back to it right after this.
Hi, this is Congressman Mike Simpson. Working for our men and women in uniform and those who have served our nation has been one of my top priorities in Congress. My local office is hosting a Veterans Resource Fair on Wednesday, February 21st from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you are a veteran who resides in Idaho's 2nd District, please swing by the Twin Falls County West Building located at 630 Addison Avenue West, Conference Rooms A and B. Contact us at 208-734-7219 for more information regarding the Veterans Resource Fair.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
I'm Larry Gelwigs, the getaway guru for Morris, Columbus Travel, and Norwegian Cruise Line, with the biggest cruise promotion of the year, including free open bar, free Wi-Fi, free excursions, free specialty dining, and on select cruises, the third and fourth person sail absolutely free. You just pay the taxes. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris, Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
KVNU Logan.